Hi everyone, welcome to story time again at the Arvid E. Miller Memorial Library and Museum. I'm Heather, and today we are going to read Fishing with Grandma. As Gila and I ran up to grandmother's house, we could see her through the frosty window, sitting on the floor with a large sealskin in her lap. My sister and I were excited for a visit with our favorite elder, and we were hoping to convince her to take us out for an adventure. "Hello, kids. It's nice to see you," Grandma said as we ran through the door. "Hi, Grandmother," we said. The house smelled of fresh fish, and we could hear upbeat fiddle music playing on the radio. Once inside, I grabbed some string that was lying on the coffee table, and Gila and I played string games as Grandma sewed. "Grandmother," I said, after a few minutes, "we would love to go on an adventure with you today." "That sounds like fun," Grandma replied. "What were you thinking?" I saw that Gila had made a fish with her string. "How about jigging for fish?" I suggested. "Ah, let's go," Grandma cried, as she always happy to get outside and show us new things. Grandma told us what clothing and equipment we needed to bring in order to stay warm. She told me to layer up my clothing so that I would not sweat when I chipped the ice. In the fall, when the ice is just starting to form, it is thin and perfect for jigging. Gila and I ran home and picked up all the clothes we would need for the day. "A trip to the lake! Aren't you kids lucky?" Mom exclaimed. Grandma prepared snacks and a thermos, and we worked together to get all the equipment from the shed and loaded onto the ATV. We put on our helmets and we set off. It was a crisp, sunny October day, and I was glad Grandma had told us to bundle up. There was already some snow on the ground, enough for people to harness their sled dogs. In the distance, we could see some rocks on the hills north of the community. We held on tight as we drove down the bumpy road, rounding many turns toward the frozen lake. As we approached the ice, I could see it was very smooth and flat. There were already people jigging all across the lake. Grandma parked the ATV on the shoreline, and Gila hopped off and excitedly ran around in the snow. Grandma explained how to test the ice to make sure it was safe to walk on. She jabbed on a long rod into the ice to see if it would break through. If the rod did not break the ice, it was safe to walk on. We then took our gear out onto the smooth, glossy surface. "This will be a good bus spot," Grandma told us. "Not too deep and not too shallow." I was pretty sure my grandmother knew everything. "This is a took," Grandma explained, holding up a long wooden tool with a sharp chisel blade at the end. "It is used to make a hole in the ice. Lift it up and thrust it into the ice, slowly chipping away the ice to make a hole." Grandma demonstrated a few times before handing the took to me. I happily grabbed hold and began chipping. "Wow, this is hard work," I said. As I continued to work, Grandma scooped away the ice chips from the hole using an ice skimmer. After a few minutes, water suddenly came rushing up through the ice. "Ah!" Grandma exclaimed. "One down, two more to go." When the fishing holes were finished, Grandma showed us how to prepare our fishing lines to jig. "The fish like flashy colors," Grandma said, "so we should always use brightly colored lures. My favorite are lures with red on them. The fish really like those." I decided to try a brilliant pink lure. Uncoil your line into the fishing hole, Grandma told us, until it is just above the lake bottom, about 10 feet down. We followed Grandma's instructions, lowering our lines into the water. We were finally ready to start jigging. Just hold your jigging sticks and make small movements with your wrists, Grandma shouted. Wow, I can see the bottom of the lake. I can even see the fish swimming by, I yelled back. From time to time, I would look up from my fishing hole and listen to the sounds of the lake. Ravens flew by. I could hear the ski-doos and ATVs in the distance, and every now and then I could hear excited voices shouting, "I got it!" The ice was alive with wonderful sounds. After lying at my fishing hole for a while, I focused on my line. I suddenly felt a small bite. "A fish! I got a fish!" I yelled. "Ah!" Grandma called back excitedly. "Pull up the line as fast as you can so that you can hook it." Grandma came over and showed me how to bop the fish on the head to stop it from squirming. Gila eagerly watched. We continued to jig for the rest of the day, only taking a break to have tea and some yummy fish. We ended up catching a lot of Arctic char, far too many for our family to eat. "What will we do with our catch, Grandmother?" Gila asked. "There are many people who are not able to come out to the lakes. We will deliver the fish to them," she replied. "It is always important to think of others." At the end of the day, when we were back in town, we made many deliveries, stopping at the homes of many elders to share our fish. When we got back to Grandma's house, she fried up the remaining fish, and we had a delicious dinner with our parents. I felt so proud and also very tired from our great adventure with Grandma. Before we went home, Grandma gave us each a big hug. It is important to learn traditional skills and to know how to be prepared. Knowing what to bring, where to go, and what to do you will always have successful trips, she said with a smile. I gave her a big squeeze and said, "Thank you for teaching us. I can't wait for our next adventure." The end. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.